It's time to start adding some feature layers to our feature service, and in this video we're going to add a point feature layer using the feature layer collection manager add to definition method. So open up the add point feature layer.py script from the add layers and tables folder. In the previous section we used the feature layer collection manager update definition method to update properties for a feature layer collection object. Here we're going to use the add to definition method to add a feature layer to our feature service. Let's quickly check out the add to definition method for the feature layer collection manager. Here we see the add to definition method. It has one required parameter, and that is a JSON dictionary. And this is the part to add to the hosted service. We know that our feature layer collection object has a property called layers, and we're going to target that property to add a point feature layer to our feature service. The add to definition method will return a JSON message indicating true for success or false for a failure. Let's head back to our script. At the top of our script, we are importing the GIS class so we can access ArcGIS Online, and the feature layer collection class so we can create a feature layer collection object and add a point layer definition to our feature service. We first access ArcGIS Online and we call our GIS class and supply in our home string. We'll assign the GIS object to a variable called AGOL. We're now going to create our feature layer definition as a Python dictionary. We're going to set an ID of 0, although ArcGIS Online will handle this when we are adding layers and tables to our feature service. Our type is feature layer. We could also make a table, which we're going to see in a few videos time. We'll name this layer point layer for training with final draft mapping. Set the description to be user created point layer. The geometry type is important. We're going to set that to Esri geometry point. We are creating a point feature layer. We'll set the extent to match the extent of our feature service, which is the extent of Ireland. And here we are using WGS 84 longitude and latitude coordinates. The fields property for a feature layer is a list of dictionaries where each dictionary represents a field definition, and we will be looking at fields in more detail in a later section. One of the most important fields to create is an object ID field. The object ID field, or the OID field, can be named whatever you want, but usually it is object ID, OID, or FID. The type of this field is Esri field type OID. At heart, it is an integer. We'll give it an alias of object ID. We're also going to add in one text field that we'll call viewpoint underscore name. This is Esri field type string, and we'll give it an alias of viewpoint name, and we'll set the length to 50. We need to take our object ID field and set an index for it so that ArcGIS Online treats it as a primary key. So here we have our indexes property, and it is a list, and the indexes list contains dictionaries where each dictionary represents an index. So here we give our index a name, fields is object ID, and we set a description to clustered, unique, and primary key. Setting this index where the OID is the primary key is very important. We also set an object ID field property where we set it to our object ID, and we have a unique field property, which is a dictionary that contains the field name of object ID and is system maintained true. So ArcGIS Online is going to maintain the OID field for us for each record. Now we use our GIS object and the content manager using the get method and supplying in our feature service item ID, which I'm going to paste in now from my notepad. We'll assign the calling of the get method to a variable called item. The get method will return an item object of our feature service. From that item object, we are going to use a feature layer collection from item method, supplying in our item object to create a feature layer collection object. We'll assign our feature layer collection object to a variable called FLC. Now we want to add our feature layer definition dictionary up here to the layers property of our feature layer collection. I'll create a variable called status. I'll set that to equal our feature layer collection object. And we're accessing the feature layer collection manager, and we're using the add to definition method. I'm going to set the JSON dictionary to equal a dictionary, an empty one at the moment. And I want to target the layers property. The layers property is a list that we saw when we printed out the properties for a feature layer collection object. So we use a list, and inside this list I'm going to place the feature layer definition dictionary. We will print the status variable to screen, hoping that it is success true and that our point feature layer has been added to our feature service. If you want to find more about the properties being used here to create the feature layer, there is a link here to a GitHub where you can find more information for each property. For now, I'm going to run this script. I'm getting an error there because I spelled definition incorrect, so I will rerun. And we are getting success true, and we can see our layers property has a list where the name of the layer, point layer for training with FDM and an ID of 0, has been successfully added to our feature service. So let's head over to ArcGIS Online. Here we have the current feature service. You can see there's currently no layers here, but when I refresh, we're going to see a layers entry for this feature service. I'll refresh the page now. And here we can see we have a point layer for training with FDM. If I click into that layer, we can see our summary, description, and acknowledgements are empty. Enable attachments is disabled. If I go up into data, we have our viewpoint name field. I can check column visibility. We also have our object ID. We do not have any records in this point feature layer. If I go to visualization, we should see that ArcGIS Online has given a default symbology for the point layer. We can see here it is this red sort of firefly symbology. So we've successfully used the ArcGIS API for Python to add a point feature layer to a feature service. Make sure to continue on to the next video in this series, and also make sure to subscribe. Take care.